Please stand, and we'll face the flags there, and former Mayor Clinton Young will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Many young men and women were on this field, in sports and in other activities, who are not with us now. They're with us in spirit. Let us remind ourselves of their spirit. You may be seated. Anything I say about it being an amazing day would be a cliche, but there's a lot of people who are going to say it in their own different ways and language, but this is an incredible day, and I'm humbled by the day, and I'm sure you are too. It's a joy to be on this field and see this field come back to life. I'll have some remarks a little bit later. There's many people that are going to be recognized, but I do want to remind you this field is owned by the city of Mount Vernon and the people of the city of Mount Vernon. The project that you have here today is a collaboration between Westchester County and the city of Mount Vernon and so many other entities that were part of this, and the county is honored that we could play the role necessary that this day could be here today. But with all appropriate responsibilities, let me introduce to you the mayor of the city of Mount Vernon, the Honorable Shawyn Patterson Howard. Madam Mayor.
Good morning, Mount Vernon. Good morning, Mount Vernon, Westchester, New York, and all those who are here to support us in this day. We have waited a long time, and we are standing in the sunshine celebrating a great moment. And thank you all for coming. So I just want to take a quick moment to recognize some who are here. I want to first take the time to recognize all past and present electeds that are representing the city of Mount Vernon and who at different stages and phases played a role in us standing here today. I want to recognize our former Mayor Clinton Young, former Mayor Richard Thomas, former Mayor Andre Wallace. I know our former mayor, Honorable Ernest Davis, we're expecting him, so hopefully he'll get here soon. I want to take an opportunity to also recognize our Judge Lyndon Williams, but who stood in the County Board of Legislators and who fought tirelessly to keep this project alive. So thank you, Judge Williams. I want to thank our current legislators, our current legislator Tyree Woodson Samuels, legislator David Tubiolo, who brought up the rear and made sure that we received the additional funding that we needed to complete this project with, time and COVID and supply chain. There were some extra things that we needed, and they continued to advocate and make sure that that happened. I want to recognize our former state senator, the Honorable Ruth Hassel Thompson, our current senator, our Senator Jamal Bailey, our current assemblyman, well, longtime assemblyman, who I don't know who was assemblyman before you. Greg Young, okay. That's been a long time. The Honorable J. Gary Pretlow brought anywhere between $5 to $7 million to this project, so thank you for advocating on the state level. Hold on. I want to recognize our former council. I see our former councilwoman Janice Duarte, former councilman Jim Jubilee. I'm not seeing other former councilmen, women, but for all of our former electeds, I want to also recognize our city council president, Derek Thompson, our controller, Darren Morton, Dr. Darren Morton, the Reverend Doctor, our councilwoman, Danielle Brown, Councilwoman Caitlin Gleason, Councilwoman Lisa A. Copeland, Councilman Edward Poteet. Of course, we want to recognize our county executive, George Latimer, our deputy county executive, Ken Jenkins, and the chief of chiefs, Ms. Joan McDonald. We want to recognize our superintendent of schools and our good partner, Dr. Bennett Conroy. I want to say thank you to the Land Tech team, to the Woodard and Curran team, to the Westchester County team, all of the different departments that worked to bring this project to fruition. I want to thank you to all of the laborers, skilled laborers, technicians, those who had boots on the ground and who worked every day tirelessly to build this stadium. Let's give a round of applause to them. I want to take out a moment absolutely to thank, as you know, while the county was the project manager and they led and drove this, the city of Mount Vernon staff spent thousands of hours meeting and planning and giving input into this project as well. So I want to thank the city of Mount Vernon staff for the incredible work that you've put in, to our Department of Parks and Recreation, to the Office of the Mayor, to our communications team, to DPW, to our engineers, to our fire department, our police department, our youth bureau, our building department. They were all involved and they sat at the table. They put in countless hours of work. Countless hours of work. So I want to thank you. I want to thank all of the Mount Vernon residents and the fans of this project for standing on McClellan Avenue and on top of Target and Best Buy so that they could look over and see what was happening in the field and just kept us encouraged. So thank you. Memorial Field, we are standing here and we are very near to completion of this field. While it is still a construction site, we're excited for this ribbon cutting today. We're also excited that on this Saturday, that the Mount Vernon Knights will be playing against the Yonkers Force in our opening football game. We're going to give you a little taste of what Memorial Field will look like when it is fully active and fully open and fully activated in the spring of 2023. There's still construction going on, but we're going to have a few soft opening events and that we will share that information with you. But we look for the park to be ready for full utilization by spring of 2023. And so what we're doing right now is as construction is nearing completion, we will be co-managing this facility with the County of Westchester. So thank you for the Parks Department and the county and everyone who will be involved in that process. This is a partnership. This is a partnership. As the county executive said, it is Mount Vernon's, but it has taken that partnership to get us here. I promised you today, we had 5 groundbreakings, and we stood here in August of 2020 and said no more groundbreakings. The next time we come here, we will be here for a ribbon cutting. And so we stand here ready for the ribbon cutting. We have worked, like I said, tirelessly to find out the best operational objectives for the field here. We worked with the Harvard Kennedy School and Bloomberg and our Department of Recreation and so many different departments, because one of the things that people were concerned about is, will Mount Vernon residents have access to this field? Absolutely, Mount Vernon residents will have full access to the stadium. But at the same time, because we do not want our field to fall into disrepair, we have to be very responsible about partnering and attracting, paying leases with regional sports teams, because we do not want the operational expenses to cripple the tax base and the residents of Mount Vernon. And so we will have a collection of groups who will come in and utilize the field under long-term leases, and we will have special events, and we will always balance that out with making sure that our residents and our local sports teams have access to this field. This is still Mount Vernon's field, but we want to make sure that we're able to maintain it and keep it open and keep it as the jewel of Mount Vernon for a long time to come. I'm very excited about this. Clearly, I am a 1986 graduate of Mount Vernon High School, so I am a proud Mount Vernon Knight. This is the field where I broke records in track. This is the field where I marched in the football games with the band. This is the field where I stood and I graduated. This is the field where we came and watched Michael Jackson, and we had concerts and rodeos. No more rodeos, this is a turf field. No car shows, this is a turf field. No circuses, this is a turf field. So this is a different stadium than in what it was when we grew up. And so the programming is going to have to be different, but it will still be the crossroads and an incredible gateway of Mount Vernon. This is where community cohesion, where we come together, where we celebrate arts, where we celebrate academics, where we celebrate the culture, and where we celebrate the incredible and the undeniable, persistent and overcoming and resilient spirit of Mount Vernon. This is an amazing day. Again, I just want to take this time to thank the county executive and your incredible team, the Mount Vernon team, and everyone through down the years participated in bringing this to fruition. Today, we're cutting a ribbon, and it will be a part of our future. Our young people will be able to play games. There was a News 12 story that spoke about Memorial Field closing and the Field of Dreams languishing for many years, and how that took away opportunity for our young people. But we are restoring opportunities for our young people, not only with this field, but with Hutchinson Field, with 4th Street, with the Dole Center, and other partnerships that will be coming to life and that we will be sharing with you in the months to come. We are investing in our young people because our young people are not our next, they are our now. And how we invest in them and how we treat them and how we raise them will determine the future of Mount Vernon. The future is bright. We are the crown jewel of Westchester. We are shining. There are days that we have to buff, but we're shining bright. And I thank you for coming to shine bright with us. This is a collective. Love you all. God bless.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before we have our next speaker, and there's going to be a few of them, so, be prepared. Everybody bringing important messages for us. I want to recognize some of the people. Some of them have been recognized at the county level by Mayor Patterson Howard, but I want to make sure you understand that from the county level of this doesn't happen without a lot of talented people that are dealing with this issue day to day to day. And they're here with us today. Some of them are not with us here today, but some are. Deputy County Executive is the person who is involved in the day-to-day management of this government alongside of myself and the Director of Operations. I could not have a better friend, much less a better partner, than Ken Jenkins. And after the George and Ken show finishes our speaking, we turn to somebody who actually knows how to get things done. A woman who is a commissioner for the state of Connecticut for economic development, commissioner for the state of New York and the Department of Transportation. Just to put it in perspective, the State Department of Transportation has twice as many employees as all of Westchester County government does. And her management skills have been on display. And as we jokingly said, the turning point of this project came when she slammed her hand on an office table and said a few words that aren't found in the Holy Book. And everybody knew she wasn't kidding. She wasn't kidding then. She's not kidding now. Joan McDonald, Director of Operations. And if there ever was a Louise to Thelma, it is the Deputy Director of Operations. She is there at every step of the way. She brings her own talent to the table. They mesh as a team. As no two people work together more closely. She's had a tremendous influence here. Emily Saltzman. Emily. Please stand, Emily. Don't just wave. Stand. We have a number of other key people that have contributed greatly. She's busy working right now, and she's got a team of people working. But you can do wonderful things, but you've got to get the message out to the public. Our Director of Communications, Catherine Chaffee. Catherine. And she has with her Joe Scamato, Carolyn Fortino, Lisa Reyes, John Bors, Chelsea Pagano, a host of very qualified professional individuals. We have commissioners of some of our county departments, each of whom had a piece of this puzzle. We have the Commissioner of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, Kathy O'Connor. Commissioner of DPW, my friend Hugh Grecian. We have the commissioner of our Department of Environmental Facility, and as we get to the next big cooperative project, Madam Mayor, the sewers, we're going to see more of him involved. Vincent Kapicki, Commissioner. We have our acting commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, and you know him in Mount Vernon. He was your chief of police and your commissioner. He's now our acting commissioner, Terrence Rayner. Commissioner. I want to recognize that we have with us a couple of members of the Board of Legislators that will be speaking in a few seconds. They represent portions of Mount Vernon. County Legislator Tyree Woodson Samuels and County Legislator David Tubiolo. We're also joined by County Legislator Vedat Gashi. And if I missed any county legislators, the next speaker will catch up on them. The chair of the Board of Legislators, Catherine Borgia, is unable to be with us, but we have with us the majority leader of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, my friend Chris Johnson. Chris? Now, as he's coming up, I just want to say this much. Chris is a true blue Yonkers guy. Don't hold that against him. We are going to kick your butt this weekend, but maybe not. Chris, it's all yours, brother.
Good morning, everyone. So I was going to start the rivalry, but it seems the county executive kicked it off. As you all may know, I had to jump out from an early lunch. The superintendent let me come here. I'm a guidance counselor at Gordon High School in Yonkers. So we'll be here on Saturday, and let's just say after this is over, we'll take bets. How about that? How about that? But you know, when government does not work, that's when we often hear people say things like, this is why we can't have nice things. But when it does work, when the state government and the county government, the city government, when the people say we're going to make this happen, we not only have nice things, we have great things. And that's what we have right here. We have something amazing, something great to celebrate, to really be happy, be amazed that we're part of. You know, sometimes we say things and there's different inflections that you can put on sentences, on questions, right? And so when you would drive past here, you would go, what's that? And now people are going to drive past and they're going to go, what is that? Right? And so when I would go to my colleagues, they'll say, that's a Memorial Field? And now I'm going to go to my colleagues and say, yeah, that's Memorial Field. Right? That's where Yonkers owned Mount Vernon. Too far? Too far? All right. All right. Clearly, y'all know I got to go back to school, so I'm not waiting until after this is over. I'm out of here. I'm not waiting for y'all to catch me outside. But it really is, it's a great opportunity to be part of something like this, to realize that the community needs something, that the community had something, that the community wants something, and to be one of the people, one of the many people. All of us here had a role to play in one way or another, whether it was saying, hey, we need this, whether it was my colleagues saying, hey, we got to do this, right? And rounding up those votes, whether it was the county executive and his team is saying, we're going to put this together, we're going to create this timeline, no matter what role you played, recognize that this exists, this facility exists because of you, and take advantage of it, love it, cherish it, because the memories that were made at the old Memorial Field, those memories will have twofold, tenfold made on this field. And I look forward to being part of them. and with that, and with that, I'm done. Thank you so much.
And Mayor Patterson Howard reminds me that from both the county administration and the city standpoint, we want to thank Chris Johnson, Catherine Borgia, the members of the Board of Legislators for their leadership. Nothing would have happened at the county government if it wasn't for the county legislature's agreement and involvement in it. And thank you very much, members of the board, for your incredible role. Now, Hugh Grecian, who is here, is a resident of the city of Rye, and Rocco Terso, who's here, is a resident of the town village of Harrison. And my mother grew up in Harrison, and I have relatives from Rye. And they told me that the greatest rivalry is Rye versus Harrison. And I said, you're out of your mind. That isn't possibly the greatest rivalry. And I think now both you and Rocco can go back and say there may be a rivalry that rivals the Rye-Harrison rivalry here. I don't know how many more Yonkers folks are going to come to the microphone, but it'll be fun to see what happens. This and New Rochelle, Mount Vernon, that's more basketball, I think, right? I'll tell you an anecdote about that offline. We could not have done this without so many different sources of leadership and resources. And we owe a great debt of gratitude to the state of New York, a tremendous debt of gratitude. And I'm going to ask two legislators to come up and speak because they were the moving force in the Assembly and in the Senate to make these things happen. I had the privilege earlier in my career to serve in both of those two houses. I served with Ruth Thompson, who showed me the way when I was a pup in the Senate, and Gary Pretlow was there during my time in the Assembly, and we're very fortunate to have them in leadership positions that helped us get the resources we needed. First, the dean of our Assembly delegation, my longtime friend, J. Gary Pretlow. I don't know what that's going to be, but we'll find out.
Boy, what a position you're putting me in. You know, I represent both Yonkers and Mount Vernon. So who do I root for? Okay, but I guess I have to go with the flow. Ken Jenkins is from Mount Vernon, as quiet as it's kept. George Latimer is from Mount Vernon, and it's not very quietly kept. So, cops and firemen from Yonkers, I got to go with Mount Vernon for this one. Sorry, okay. You know, there's an old adage that goes, good things come to people who wait. And Lord knows, Mount Vernon's waited a long time for this. When this process first started, Ernie Davis was on the County Board of Legislators. And followed by a number of individuals, we now have Samuel Woodson, Tyree. How do I get Samuel from? Samuel's, old age does this to you. And I'm getting to that in a second. And we have Tyree on the county board. Ron Blackwood was mayor. And now we have Shawyn Patterson Howard as mayor. Sam B. was the state senator. Now we have Jamal. Pardon? Oh, that's right, you beat him. Okay. Then you were senator. Okay, I stand corrected. When you're born in the 40s, this is what happens to you. Ruth Hassel Thompson was the state senator, and now Jamal Bailey is the state senator. And of course, Gary Pretlow was the assemblyman, and Gary Pretlow was still the assemblyman. We've been a journey here. This stadium has history. What do you know, Big Green? Was it Big Joe Green? Filmed. There was a Mean Joe Green. You know, there was a tunnel over there, and we're going to do more of that. I look forward to many, many events at this stadium, and I'm just glad to see. Oh, I forgot to say, and Andrew O'Rourke was the county. Was the county executive. Now we have George Latimer. So we've come a very long way and through very many individuals, all of whom, everyone, has had something to do with this, something to do with the success of this. So I want to thank everyone, past mayors, past senators, current mayor, past city council, current city council, for all the work and effort you put into it. I'm glad that I could have been a small part in getting the state to put in some funds to help this come to fruition. Thank you.
And in Albany, you have two houses of the state legislature, and they both have to be aligned, and you need a powerful voice in both of those two houses. The voice that you had with Ruth Hassel Thompson, and you now have in Senator Jamal Bailey, our friend who, though he represents a big section of the Bronx, never forgets Mount Vernon. Senator Bailey.
Thank you, County Exec. It is a beautiful day to be here. I just want to remind everybody that Chris, just like me, is originally from the Bronx. So that's what, because he's talking all this Yonkers stuff right now. But Chris is from the BX just like me. And when you're from the Bronx, you're choosing Mount Vernon over Yonkers. I just want to be clear about where I am. Rule number 1 with public speaking, KYA, know your audience. And my audience is a proud city who's been undercounted by the census, and we've been counted out by other people. But the leadership behind me and where you're at never let that come to fruition. You never gave up the fight. Everyone had a role to play, whether it was $1 given at a bake sale to the capital funding that was given by the state and the county. Everybody played a role. So when you talk about what our mayor said about this being our field, Madam Mayor, you are 100% correct. This is our field. And yes, my physical address is in the Bronx. Not moving over here, y'all. Not yet. You know my wife makes the decisions, Ruth. If she says so, we will be here. But our reality is that each of you, this is your field. This was the field that Mean Joe Green filmed that Coke commercial, that Michael Jackson. There's so much legendary things that have happened here. Even if you're from a boy from the Bronx and you drove past here and you saw this track and you saw this field, you knew how important it was. We used to come run over here too. We used to try to play on this field too. Wasn't good enough to make the Razorbacks. Oh, y'all should have known me when I was younger. I was this high, this thin, and this fast. So football was not my sport. But life is a team sport. And sometimes, just like football, it gets to be full contact. 11 on 11, and sometimes in the trenches, it gets tough. It gets difficult. You fight for every yard. But when the team moves in the right direction, they can't be stopped. There's a reason why we're the reigning state champions in basketball, because when the team concept is understood, we can't be stopped. There is a reason why people came from far and wide to try to play in the Mount Vernon Razorbacks when I was a kid. There is a reason for that. When this city comes together and galvanizes, it cannot, it will not, it shall not be stopped. This is a shining example of that. There is no greater example of life being a team sport than this field. And quite frankly, this is the kind of field that makes you think you still got it. This is the kind of field where, listen, I just want to let everybody know, don't go out here trying to run around. They're not paying for your ACL tear. They're not paying for your meniscus repair. But what we do have is a field that is priceless. The memories that you've had and the memories that you will have in the future are priceless. So to my colleagues in the legislature, Assemblymember Gary Pretlow and my predecessor in government, the Senator Emeritus Ruth Hassel Thompson, thank you for what you've done. When we were in the minority, thank you for running with the ball, Gary. Our county executive knows full well what that's like. When we were down on the clock and the money wasn't there, the county board of legislators stepped up. Thank you, Tyree and David. Tyree, I'm thinking football. Madam Mayor, thank you for stepping up in a moment of crisis and making sure that you shepherded this city and this town to the place that it's at. Our county executive and our deputy county executive, I have no words for all the work that you've done and the commitment that you've given to us and to our speaker and to our majority leader who have helped us get this money there. I just want to say thank you for letting this little boy from the Bronx be a part of this great community in Westchester. And Mount Vernon's going to win on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bailey. I had to laugh. You know, Senator Bailey's in his late 30s, and he says you get on this field and you kind of think you still have it. Senator, when you're in your late 60s, you know you don't have it. You can't even remember if you did have it. I do want to recognize before the next speaker three elected officials from Pelham, right over the line of trees there. With the county's involvement in this, every part of Westchester County has part of the commitment to Memorial Field, and we're very happy to have them here. They are partners in all of this as well. The mayor of the village of Pelham, Chance Mullen. Chance. His colleague on the village board, Don Otandi. Don, village trustee. Don, why don't you stand up? Chance, stand up, please. Let everybody see you. And then also from the Pelham Town Council, Maura Curtin, a Mount Vernonite by birth. Maura. And you got to feel good, all kidding aside, when Yonkers and Pelham and the Bronx are in the house with Mount Vernon. That's the future of Mount Vernon, partnering with other communities, not in opposition, in partnership. Next, I want to make sure that we recognize the county legislators that have had so much to do with this. When the executive branch decides we're going to go forward with this, that decision is contingent upon the agreement with the legislative body. And both Gary and Jamal and the others who've served in the state legislature know that the governor makes an announcement, but the state legislature has to be in agreement. The same is true at the local levels of government. And without the leadership on the board of legislators of these two county legislators, the extra money, the original money and the extra money would not have happened, and we would be still talking about how are we going to finance this. Clinton Young and I both served in the county legislature at some point in time. Ernie Davis, Lyndon Williams. We've all had that experience. And sometimes county legislators get overlooked in all of this, but not on this project. If it wasn't for these two fellas, we wouldn't be here today. Let me first introduce Tyree Woodson Samuels, county legislator.
How you doing, everybody? I couldn't think of better weather for this momentous occasion. This is truly a full circle moment for me. You know, starting at 5 years old, I was a Mount Vernon Razorback. I made the team. I was the quarterback. We won a lot of championships on this field. And so a lot of folks have been recognized, but I do want to recognize my old coach who's in the back, Coach Mack. Give him a big round of applause, please. I want to recognize Coach Sparks. Give him a big round of applause. And the reason why I want to recognize these individuals is because this field was home away from home. I grew up on 7th Avenue and 3rd Street, south side of the city, tough area. And I can truly say this field saved a lot of our lives. I wouldn't be standing here before you without the Mount Vernon Razorbacks, without those coaches, without those mentors that played a major role in my life and all of my friends and teammates' lives. So this is truly a special, special day for me. The wait is finally over. We're here. And an African proverb actually comes to mind as I stand here. And the quote goes, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. And here we are together to celebrate this occasion. The reopening of Memorial Field, the crown jewel of our city, has been a dream that is finally coming to fruition. Efforts to rehabilitate this field has been going on for nearly as long as I've been alive. So I want to thank County Executive George Latimer. Seriously, George, thank you. This would not be possible without your leadership, my friend. I want to thank our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, as well, for your assistance. And I want to thank Chairwoman Borgia, Majority Leader Chris Johnson, who we won't hold against him that he's from Yonkers today, because he was a yes vote, so we'll negate that. Right? And so I'm going to be introducing my colleague David Tubiolo, who, is a pretty senior member of our caucus, and I'm still relatively new. And David, as I came in, he helped me along the way. And David, although he's from Yonkers, he does represent Mount Vernon, and so I appreciate you helping me along the way as well, my brother, and supporting us all here to get this project done. So without further ado, please give a big round of applause for my colleague, David Tubiolo. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to give a special shout out to a few people. I know it's been mentioned, and it's been mentioned a few times that team, I actually add to it, it's family. Here in Mount Vernon, we have a lot of family, and this is a family effort, team effort, and we did it together. And I want to start, of course, with my dear colleague and friend, Tyree Woodson Samuels, who, when we were in those meetings, when we were in some tough times and some bumps with George, with the legislative body, with Chris, with everyone, Ty was the guy who pushed it forward. I have to thank him really pushing this forward and supporting him. Let's give him one round of applause. One more. But I want to add to it, Ty and myself, George, and the whole team, the whole family were one group, but there was people before us. And as someone I view as a mentor to us. And I want to give him a special shout out because he really carried the torch throughout the years. And I always listened to him. I always took his advice. And he always helped me, Ty, and the whole board. No other than the living legend himself, Lyndon Williams. Everyone, give this man, really stand up. Stand up, Lyndon. Give him a round of applause. So I just want to say, Lyndon was not only a dear friend and a mentor, but he was full of institutional knowledge. He always tell me, David, this is what happened in the past. David, this is why this is like this. David, this is what's happening. I always listened. He is a very wise legislator and, of course, judge now. And I just want to say thank you. And Ty and I both take that wisdom we carry together as a team, as a family. So today, if you look around, Mount Vernon's the city of pride, the city of homes, the city of flags. And when I think pride, look at this, not field, complex. Look everything behind us. This is state-of-the-art complex that the team and the family put together. Everyone here, as it was said before, I'll say it again, had a role. I want to say from the state senate, the state assembly, the city of Mount Vernon, of course, the people of Mount Vernon, the people of Westchester. This is not just a hidden jewel. This is now a jewel that everyone sees. And this is something that the community of Westchester, New York State, will see every time we have a game here. Yes, Yonkers against Mount Vernon. I'm a Mount Vernon guy right now, Chris, okay? So I'm sorry. Don't tell Yonkers. Don't tell Yonkers. Don't tell Yonkers. I'm not coming to the game. Don't tell Yonkers. Please don't do that to me. Chris ain't going to make me forget that. But that game this Saturday is what's to be coming. More and more great things. More and more great fields and great plays. And it's just not for us. It's our children. Because soon the children, 4 or 5 years from now, they're in college. 4 or 5 years after that, they're in the real world. Some of them will be professional athletes. God willing, this field will help them get there. That is what we're here for. Not just us, but our future legacy, our children, our students, our youth. And Mount Vernon has so much talent. I want to see Mount Vernon talent. I want to see Westchester talent on the top professional scale. I want to see them golfing, hockey, basketball, football. You name it, Mount Vernon's got it. Now, on that note, I just want to say one more shout out, of course. Lyndon, if you want. There was Lyndon, but before you, who was there? That was helping with Memorial Field. That man right there. Stand up. Clinton Young, everyone. So, in Westchester, we appreciate our past, our present, and future, and our legacies. So, Ty and I are a team, but we're also a family with George, Ken, Chris, Catherine, and, of course, Mayor Sean Patterson Howard, Derek Thompson, and the whole council, and the people before us. And we thank you, and we thank everyone here. God bless Mount Vernon. God bless us. Thank you, everyone.
Building on my 35 years in elective office, I want to give a little advice to my friends David and Chris and so forth. When you're standing on Ashford Avenue, Dobbs Ferry is the greatest village in the state of New York. The minute you cross over the Sawmill River Parkway, Ardsley is the greatest village in the state of New York. That's how it rolls. So when we see each other on the other side of the Bronx River Parkway, we will be singing a different tune. I want to recognize that we've been joined by another member of the New York State Senate who served during the period of time that these decisions were made. We're grateful for her support and leadership, Senator Alessandra Biaggi. Please stand up, Senator. Thank you. And we also want to recognize Brandon Lloyd, who is here on behalf of Governor Kathy Hochul. We talk a lot about what legislators can do. That's because I spent 30 of these 35 years as a legislator. But if the governor doesn't approve it, it don't happen. So tell the governor we're all grateful to the governor and her leadership in all of this. We have representatives who are involved in the decision-making process in the city, and I'd like to lead off with Mount Vernon City Council President Derek Thompson. Mr. Council President.
Good morning, everyone. Just want to start by saying, Mount Vernon, make some noise! Once again, Mount Vernon, make some noise! This is a long time coming. Thank you to every elected official, past and present. God bless you all for all the hard work you have done. Let's make some more noise for every elected official who played a part, because none of us can do anything by ourselves. No matter what seat you hold, no one person can get the job done. So it's always a collective. So I thank God for us working together to ensure that we get the best for our city. And it should be known that Mount Vernon is the best city in the state of New York. You know, I'm the tallest here, so I can say it. And but we're going to do so many great things, and I'm just looking forward to our city coming together. Let this pride trickle out through our community and continuously bring our community together. Let the cleanliness of this field trickle to the cleanliness of our streets. And let's take Mount Vernon back, because Mount Vernon belongs to us. So let's see great things for our city. Let's continue to work together. I'm looking for that triangle to come back together, where the school district as well as the city and the library come together, and we have things for our children to do. Let's take Mount Vernon back, because Mount Vernon belongs to us. And greatness is here. Greatness is here. And we have to acknowledge that greatness is here, and it's only going to be prevalent when we all continuously work together. So let's continue to do our part, and as long as we do our part, we'll always win. God bless you.
Thank you, Derek. Next person to come to the microphone has helped us in two ways. Number one, he is the relatively new city controller who helps make the dollars and cents fall in line, thankfully. He's brought his professional experience to City Hall, and we're grateful for that. He also, in his other profession, has a pipeline to the Almighty, and without the Almighty, nothing gets done.
Good morning, Mount Vernon. It is with great pleasure that I stand here today as the comptroller for the city of Mount Vernon at this time, but also know that this has been a journey to get to this place. And there's so many things that so many of us know, but so many more of us that we don't know about what happened along this journey. And I also had the pleasure of also being the Recreation Commissioner for a good portion of this journey along the way. And so there's a lot of things that have happened behind the scenes. Changes of designs, changes of concepts, decisions that have been wrong, decisions that have been right. Working with Fuller and D'Angelo, and working, of course, with Woodard and Curran. And we know we've got the scars to prove it. A lot of the journey that we've taken to get here today. But all of it was done for the betterment of Mount Vernon and for our young people. And no matter who the mayor was at the time, the decisions were made to try to do the very best for Mount Vernon. And I can say that as one who have served for all of them. All right? And so we want to, first of all, thank each and every one of them, all of the decision makers who are around the table to make this a possibility. But what I also want to make sure that we don't do today as the comptroller is that we not forget also the people that are usually behind the scenes trying to make the dollars work. There were comptrollers that sat and tried to assisted and offered their help. So we want to also make sure that we do pause to recognize Maureen Walker for her contribution to this along the way. We also want to make sure that we also do recognize that also there was Deborah Reynolds, who also in her role, she also contributed in her own way. And the reason why I say that is because it's now going to be my responsibility to be the yin to the yang, to make sure that the actual economics works, to make sure that the business plan is there. As a sports, athletics, activities professional for over 25 years, I understand that it's not just about the programming plan, but it also is about the business and the finance plan. And so we commit in the office of the comptroller that we will do the very best that we can to make sure that the budget works and that it works so that we can have those activities for our young people, that dreams can be made, because you do know that this is the field of dreams. Everybody who came here had a dream, and everybody who played on there also strive to achieve their dream. And so we will do that every day. So, Madam Mayor, I stand today to say that you have a partner and not an adversary. You have a partner to work with you to make the program work. I want to thank the county for the management of this to this point, and also the transition that we will go under over the next few months to make sure that I understand exactly what is required of us in the comptroller's office. And I look forward to working with the city council as we begin to make some very policy decisions around how the use of this facility should unfold. At the end of the day, Mount Vernon, let me say this as a boy from the projects, who someone told me at some point that I would never graduate, but yet I stand here today with 4 degrees, including a doctorate, and world experience enough to say that it was at this field where I ran, it was at this field where I participated in sports. It was at this field where I had recreational activities. It was at this field where I watched my fellow comrades win games and participate in sports. It was at this field that friendships were made. So this is not just about sports. This is about life experience. It's about an experience. It's a destination of experience for not only Mount Vernon, not only for the Westchester County, but for the entire state of New York. So thank you all, and congratulations on this leg of the race.
Just a few more to go, folks. So when I was in 10th grade or 11th grade, if somebody had said, the school superintendent wants to see you, I would have quaked in my boots. And I'm sure you can imagine, what does the school superintendent want to see me? What have I done? However, I'm not 10th grade, 11th grader anymore. And just a couple of days ago, over at the Sleepy Hollow Hotel, I was having breakfast with somebody, and the school superintendent popped over to say hello. And I wasn't stressed that I had done something wrong, but we embraced each other because together we have done something right for the school people of Mount Vernon, of which many of us are alums. And so I'm very happy to bring up to the microphone the Mount Vernon School Superintendent, Dr. Wavelyn Bennett Conroy. Dr. Bennett Conroy.
Good morning, everyone. Where is Chris? He left? Yeah, he had to go back. Okay. He got scared because, yes, because I just came from a meeting in Saratoga with superintendents, and I was teasing the superintendent of Yonkers, and I said to him, you know, we're having a game on Saturday. Are you going to be there? He said, maybe, maybe not. So he whispered in my ear, and he said, you know, you're going to kick your, you know what. So he conceded already that Mount Vernon is going to win the game on Saturday. So, yes, very smart. County Executive Latimer, Madam Mayor, and the distinguished guests, it is truly an honor to have been asked to be a part of the ribbon cutting ceremony for such a historic community site in our city. Memorial Field has been an icon since the 1930s, and this is how you know I do my homework. It was home to the Iona Gales football team for 24 years, along with our own Mount Vernon Knights, the Westchester Bulls, a farm team for the New York Giants, played here in the 1960s. The Jackson 5, James Brown, Buddy Rich, and Ella Fitzgerald performed concerts along with other well-known acts on this field. The old grandstands were the location for filming the iconic 1979 Coca-Cola commercial featuring Mean Joe Green of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The last known uses of this field were the Mount Vernon High School 1999 graduation ceremony and the Relay for Life breast cancer walk. I had a discussion with Councilman Thompson this morning, And one of the things that we are strategizing and planning is if we could have the next graduation with all our 3 schools on this field. I have not discussed it with the principals yet, but I know they will forgive me because this is a beautiful field. And because it brings so much memories for some of our teachers who works here for a very long time and our administrators, I think they would definitely embrace the idea. I also spoke with Coach Semino and the coaches, and they're getting ready for Saturday. So guys, please, I'm asking you to support us on Saturday. Wear all your gears. Pump, yes, maroon and gold. I will be wearing my sneakers because I have a pair of sneakers that I have as a superintendent because I don't wear heels anymore. What I do is wear sneakers by going into the schools because I cannot run around in heels. So I am not the superintendent of heels. Get that quite clear. I am the superintendent with my sneakers. And I also want to welcome all my board of trustees who are here because I know some of them are in the crowd. Could you please stand if you're here? That's Lorna Corwin. Yes, and I saw Trustee Jenga somewhere around early on. As the newly appointed superintendent of the Mount Vernon City School District, my mission for the district has been the 4 R's: renew, recommit, redesign, and reimagine. It excites me to see you all, County Executive Latimer, were able to recommit to the project, redesign the field, and recreate a stadium worthy of the surrounding communities, allowing families, athletes, scholars, and performing artists to gather and revitalize the spirit and hope that once was so prominent in our city. And so it is now that I join with all of you to reopen and rededicate the renovated Memorial Field. And guys, please shout with me, shout with pride, go Knights! Go Knights! Go Knights! One more time, that was not loud enough. One more time. Go Knights! Thank you.
Let me mention again some of the people that deserve recognition. You've heard a few of these names already, but there are some that you have not heard. From Land Tech, the organization that did the work here so well prior to and certainly after the Joan McDonnell stamp on the table. I want to recognize and thank John Selensky, Chief Operating Officer from Land Tech. John, please recognize wherever you may be. Behind me. Okay, if he's there. Thank you. Stand up. Marty Lyons, Vice President of Public Relations. And playing the old man's cards, New York Sack Exchange, Jet fans of 40 years ago. We have Brad Richmond, who is here, contributed great to this. And Andy, Finney, and Raquel, all from Land Tech. Let's give a round of applause to our Land Tech team. Made this happen. From Woodard and Curran, Anthony Catalano, Senior Principal. Omar Perez, Engineer. Rocco Turso, the Field Representative. Thank you, gentlemen. We have from Fuller and D'Angelo Architects, Joseph Fuller. We have John Cooney from the Construction Industry Council. From the Building Trades, Ed Doyle and Dom Casanelli. We have the chairman of our County Parks Board, J. Henry Neal. And the chair of our County Planning Board, my former boss once upon a time, Richard Hyman. From the Parks Department, Kathy O'Connor, the Commissioner. Peter Tartaglia, First Deputy Commissioner. Please stand, Peter. Deputy Commissioner Neil Squilante. Jeannie Davis, William Bland. Thank you, Parks Department. From DPW, aforementioned Commissioner Hugh Grecian. Deputy Gail Katzman. Nadia Savage. Susie Gabor. Lindsey Jackson. Brian Hecht. Vincent Lappin. All of these individuals, day to day, were involved in this, and are as much to receive the credit as all of the rest of the names we've had before. Next to last speaker, before I give some closing comments, I'd like to invite Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins here to the microphone. Ken has been a leader in this county for a long time, former chairman of the Board of Legislators, active in his community, previously head of the Yonkers NAACP. He's done so much in worlds of leadership, and you'll never know how much leadership he's given to this administration. Ken Jenkins.
Well, good morning. That didn't sound as loud as the Knights chair. Good morning. You know, this is such a special day because it's been so long coming. And the truth is that without hard work, perseverance, leadership, and dedication from everyone, we would not be here today. So give it up for yourselves again for all of the work that we did. I gave a great big hug to my big brother, my partner on the Board of Legislators. Y'all do recall that we were the chair and vice chair, and we were not allowed to be in the same place at the same time. It was our brother Lyndon Williams. Lyndon, say it one more time. Say it one more time, brother. Right? We were talking to Dr. BC about this for a minute, and we said there's some things that we could tell you, but if we told you, we'd have to kill you. And we don't want that to happen for Dr. BC because she's doing a fantastic job. But Lyndon and I know so much of the history. Dr. Morton is probably the only other one that's here today that has every piece of the puzzle that had to happen. The things that we all were trying to do with all of the mayors that did the work to get us to today, to Shawyn, Patterson, Howard, and the midnight phone calls that me and Shawyn have to take care and talking about things that are happening, the conversations with your council president, Derek Thompson, or with Lisa, with Andre, doesn't matter. We were doing so much work, talking to so many people to get to today. Now, I'm not a Mount Vernon boy initially. I'm a Bronx boy initially. But on Magnolia, I used to walk through here and cut down Sanford. I walked around the field a few times and walked down to the Bronx, to Edson, to Sugar's house, to Deborah's house, and we would look at the things that were happening here at Memorial Field. And then, when I got married, I moved to Yonkers.
Sorry to hear that.
No, I'm happy about that. Because on Saturday at the game, I'm going to try to flip the hats. I'll probably just wear a park shirt, because that's smart, a Westchester County park shirt, to be able to do that. And I'll have a little bit of red and some other things on in other places. We would not be standing here today with all of the dedication and hard work that we had to do with the county executives that were in the path and in the way of trying not to make sure that the same investment that we had everywhere else was happening here in Mount Vernon. And because we have a leader now that is a son of Mount Vernon, that said whatever things we needed to do, because no matter what, we don't get to do anything without his leadership. So let's give it up again for the County Executive, George Latimer. When Joan slapped the table, we were sitting there. And Terrence Rayner, Commissioner Rayner, will appreciate this because I was playing the good cop. Picture that. And Joan was playing the bad cop. But the reality is we were doing that because the county executive said, get this done. He said, make sure we do whatever we have to do to get that done. Make sure you spend the time, energy, and effort. Meet wherever you have to meet. Do the political things that we had to do. And with the lawyers, with John Nona, that was in George's Facebook post. If you saw John Nona and the work we had to navigate with that, to get to the place where now we had a construction contract. We were out in the field. We were at a school and getting feedback with a skate park. We didn't have a skate park before. We got a beautiful skate park now. Let's give it up for the skate park. And we're not going to do skate park. We're not going to run on the field. We're not going to run track. We may barely sit down. But at the end of the day, this is what happens when we're all working together and pulling in the right direction. If it was easy, anybody could do it. Congratulations, Mount Vernon. Congratulations to all the people that put some things in. And let's go have a good football game.
I had a conversation with a good friend of mine. It was not long after New Year's Day earlier this year, and we talked, as we usually do in these conversations, about a number of different things, sharing information. And as part of it, he asked me, how's it going to Memorial Field? And I said, it's going well. We're getting there. We're not there yet. It's a complicated construction project. We found things that we didn't expect to find that made it harder to do, more costly, took more time. We found that we were going to have to go back and talk to our county legislature and to the city council to make adjustments in order to finish the project, but we would finish the project. A couple of weeks after I spoke to him, we lost him. And so I could not call him back anytime over the last few weeks to say, Reggie, we have completed what I said we would. Reggie Lafayette and I go back 47 years. Gary Pretlow was part of that world, Greg Young and others. And we've lost a lot of people from that world, Drew Zambelli, Greg Young, and so forth. Richard Hyman remembers that world. There's a few of us. And I would give anything if Reggie Lafayette could be here today. I know Tajon Nelson is here today, and she is the keeper, not just of his responsibilities, but of the flame of Reggie Lafayette. And at some point in time, fairly soon, you will all join us at the corner of 1st Avenue and 1st Street, where we take a building that used to be called the Con Edison Building in our common lingo, and it becomes the Reginald A. Lafayette County Office Building. And I'll jump ahead to what I'm going to say that day, because we've already made the action. It's been passed by the Board of Legislators. We have to get the proper signage on the building and what's going to happen inside to honor Reggie's memory. But you may remember the history when General John Pershing and the American Expeditionary Force of the United States went to France to fight on the side of the French in World War I. And it wasn't Pershing, although it's attributed to him. One of his aides came, and when they landed in France, remembering the sacrifice of the Marquis de Lafayette coming to America during our Revolution, he landed in France, and at the grave of Lafayette, he said, Lafayette, we are here. We will say that again when we stand in front of that building. Lafayette, we are here. We're here behind the commitments that we made, and we honor you that day yet to come, as we honor all of the people that participated and played on this field now with this ribbon cutting that we're about to do. There is a song, you know, I'm kind of old, I admit it. I tend to listen to certain radio stations. Young always busts me on this when we talk about this, because I'm stuck in the 60s on 6, and the 70s on 7, the 80s on 8. Sometimes I get up to the 90s on 9. That's about as close to today as I come. Somebody says, Harry Styles has the best hit song in the country today. I go, who's Harry Styles? You know. But there's a song that was out 30 years ago by Sting. You may remember him from the Police. Not the Police, but the Police, the group. It's from an album called 10 Summoner's Tales. Great music. And I thought about that sitting here in this field, and the song is called Fields of Gold. It's a beautiful song. He speaks of his love for the woman in his life. But the words that he uses applies in other ways in the verse, in the refrain. He says, I've never made promises lightly, and there have been some that I've broken. But I swear in the days still left, we'll walk in fields of gold. This isn't a field of gold. This is a field of green. But this is a promise. Not a promise broken, but a promise kept. We kept a promise in Yonkers at Sprain Ridge Park when there were 2 pools that were empty for 8 years, and there was a tree growing out of one of them. They put one of them back for about 6 months. It wasn't set properly. It was set kind of like for the election cycle. And we had to close it in 18 and fix it again. But that pool opened in 2019 and 20 and 21 and 22. And the kids of that area enjoyed that pool who didn't have another place to swim. We had a collapsing historic site where George Washington spent time during the Battle of White Plains, the Miller House up in North Castle. Now, the folks here may not know about the Miller House, and the folks up there may not know about Memorial Field. But that was American history. We made a promise, and we kept it with the help of the state to fix the Miller House and to bring it back to a level where it can be appreciated by school children to understand the role that this county played during the Revolutionary War. We had a North County Trailway and a South County Trailway. The vision of Andy O'Rourke and Al Del Bello, two county executives of blessed memory, one Republican, one Democrat, who saw how an abandoned rail line could become a walking and bicycle path, and that had fallen into some degree of disrepair, and we needed to fix it. It was a tort action waiting to happen. But more importantly, it was an asset let to go fallow. We fixed both. We put the money and we fixed both. The people of Mount Vernon and the people of Pelham and the people of New Rochelle had a family court that if a certain issue arose, they would go to properly have that issue adjudicated. And family court's a very difficult court. My friends in the judiciary will tell you. It's an emotional moment. Issues of custody are at stake. And the building that we were using on North Avenue in New Rochelle had been identified for a decade as insufficient for the purpose. Disrespectful to the people who were going into that building. It was terrible. And for 6.5 years, you know, as Ralph Cramden would say, the honeymooners, using another old reference, homina, homina, homina. There is now a court in New Rochelle that is befitting of the people who go for justice in that court. And we did those things, and we've done more, not because we're great, but because we believe in keeping promises. And we believe that people, Mount Vernon people, Pelham people, New Rochelle people, people anywhere, deserve a government that cares about getting results, doing things, not just making a speech, which we've done all morning and I'm doing right now, not just having a few light comments of humor and giving out a proclamation or having a festival. All of those are wonderful things, and we do those things, and that's part of life. But part of government is governing, is producing results so that people, whether you pay taxes or not, that's why you had free buses all summer, because we understood the value of transportation to the public. That is why it was free to go into our pools Monday through Thursday this summer. And when we realized we had to fix Wilson Woods, we made Wilson Woods free all the time so that what was there could be used by the people, because that is what government ought to be. There are people in this society who don't believe in democracy. They think that if we have democracy, that the majority rules, their rights are going to be impinged upon. And their rights are more important than democracy. It's more important that their agenda be ruled than that the majority rule. The only way we fight that back is not with equal rhetoric, but by showing them government that works at the state level, at the county level, at the city and the town and the village level. And we show them that it works, not out of a cult of personality. Because one of the proudest things that I've done as county executive is to ask the legislature, and they agreed, to put a hard term limit on the position of county executive. 2 terms and you're done. 8 years and you're done. Why? Why would I do that to myself? Because it's never about the individual. And we have to show the people it's not about us as individuals. We put the name of Reginald Lafayette on an office building, but not to praise ourselves, but to praise the man who deserves the praise. And we don't do it for ourselves. When I leave here today on the way home, I'm going to take a little drive. And I always do this when I'm in Mount Vernon. I can't help it. I'm sentimental that way. And I'm going to go down to the other side of the south side, and I'm going to go past that little house that Stan and Loretta bought in 1959. Stan was from Brooklyn. Loretta was from Harrison. They met in Mamaroneck, and they found housing in Mount Vernon, a small apartment in a private house at 109 South 3rd Avenue, and then an apartment in an apartment building that no longer stands at 160 South 3rd Avenue. And then somehow, Stan being a maintenance man, Loretta being a factory worker, they figured out how to put enough money together to buy the smallest house in the world. The councilwoman, Danielle, lives right up the block from it. It's still standing. It's just as small now as it ever was. That's the house I grew up in, ma'am. That's where I come from, the Foot of Vista Place. And it's been given to us, it's been given to me, the opportunity to make this happen. We all did it, not me. All of us did this. All of us, all the names we've mentioned, all of the people standing around, the men right now that are laying concrete out there, they too own this. We all own it. We all own it. So it's not about personality. I have 3 years left. I hope I have them if the Lord gives them to me, and I hope we're going to continue to do good things. We will. We have more mountains to cover. But I will tell you, in the days still left, we're going to walk in fields of gold. In this city, you're going to walk in fields of gold. You're going to get a sewer system that you deserve to have, and you're going to get more than that. This city will rise, and it won't be alone. We made some jokes, you know, Mount Vernon, Yonkers, New Rochelle hasn't gotten into the issue yet. All of us are going to rise. All of us, white and black and Latino and Asian and gay and straight and transgendered. We are all going to rise together. That is the only way this nation works. Not hating on each other, but loving each other. People talk about the Second Amendment. I want to talk about the second commandment. Love thy neighbor like you love thy God. Second commandment. That's the future. That's the future. That future is longer than I have on this planet, but it doesn't matter. While we're here, we do what we can do. And for today, we cut a ribbon on a field, a long-time promise that we have delivered on all of us together. Each of you own a piece of this ribbon. Each of you. God bless us all. And may he give us the strength to keep on living up to that promise. Let's cut a ribbon.
Mount Vernon.